Good morning. I declare today's meeting open. I welcome everyone joining us in the gallery this morning. Hello and welcome to you all, and to those joining us via the live stream. Would everyone please stand as I ask Councillor Hungerford to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet. Councillor Hungerford.
Through you, Madam Mayor, the Sunshine Coast Council acknowledge the Kabi peoples and the Yandina peoples whose lands and waters we all now share. The traditional owners, unique values and ancient and enduring cultures deepen and enrich the life of our communities. The Sunshine Coast has been a place of celebration, abundance, connection and kinship for thousands of years, and we commit to working in partnership with the traditional owners to continue those practices and support self-determination through economic and community development. Truth-telling is a significant part of our journey, and legacy issues resulting from colonisation are still experienced by traditional owners and First Nations people. We are committed to better understanding the collective history of the Sunshine Coast traditional owners and the experiences of First Nations people. We recognise our shared history and will continue to work in partnership to provide a foundation for building a shared future with the Kabi people and the Yandina people. We pay our respect to the traditional owners of the Sunshine Coast and to their elders, past and present, and acknowledge the important role First Nations peoples continue to play within the Sunshine Coast community. Together we are all stronger. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hungerford. Please remain upstanding as I invite Reverend Doshin Kusan Raushi from Soto Zen Buddhism to provide us with a blessing.
It's a bigger crowd than I expected, but I'm really glad. For 2 or 3 people, I die. But for this, I'll try my best. The gentleman over there with the top, I actually outrate you. Can you see? Beautiful tie. He's there. So good morning, Mayor and the Council and everyone else. Can you hear me okay? I say, thanks for inviting me to perform a blessing. It's something I don't do often, bless, but I'll have a go at it. My name is Reverend Doshin Kusan, and I am an ordained Soto Zen Buddhist priest for about 5 years. I've been a Buddhist for about 50 years now. I live at Doonan on the northern edge of the council. Here is a beautiful verse of compassion for you I've decided to give you today. I hope it kind of goes where you want to go. So, am I ready to go? Hearing the sounds of the world. Awakening is right here now. At one with the awakened mind, you are calm, joyful, pure and happy. In the light of the morning, you hold this. In the darkness of evening, you hold this. Moment after moment, your heart of compassion opens. There is nothing other than this. Here is no fear. Your words and your love ring out through space and time beyond the stars. Words, the way is beyond language. For in it there is no yesterday, no tomorrow, and no today. You will never be alone, by the way. You walk with all beings throughout the universe. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me, and I hope that I can give something to your place. I've been here for 37 years, and I love it. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend. Please remain standing. It is with sadness and respect that we today acknowledge the passing of former Maroochydore Mayor, Bob King. Bob was a dedicated public servant and a passionate advocate for the Sunshine Coast region. His leadership during his term as Mayor helped shape the foundation of the vibrant, thriving community we are proud to be part of today, and his contributions have left an indelible mark on our region. Bob served the people of Maroochydore from 1994 to 1997 with integrity, vision and a deep commitment to public service. He understood the needs of a growing community and worked hard to ensure that progress was both responsible and inclusive. His leadership was characterised by a profound sense of duty, compassion and pursuit of progress for the people of Maroochydore, and his contribution to local government and to the lives of the people he served will not be forgotten. On behalf of Sunshine Coast Council and our community, I extend deepest condolences to Bob's family, friends and all those who had the privilege of working alongside him. We understand some of Bob's family may be watching the live stream this morning. We hope you find comfort in the memories of this remarkable life and the enduring impact he has had on our community. Let us remember Bob King with gratitude for his service, and may his legacy continue to inspire those of us who follow in his footsteps. Please be seated. Councillors, we move on to the record of attendance, and I note that Councillor Johnston is an apology this morning. Moving on to the receipt and confirmation of minutes. Councillors, can I please have someone move receipt and confirmation of the minutes of the ordinary meeting held on 27 March 2025, Councillor Natoli, and seconded Councillor Bunnag. All those in favour? And the motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. There is no mayoral minute today, so I move on to the conflicts of interest. And councillors, I remind you of the requirements of the Local Government Act of 2009, which sets out how councillors' conflicts of interests are managed in local government matters. These requirements apply to how we deal with such matters at this meeting. Should you have a conflict of interest in relation to an agenda item, please raise it at the commencement of that item. So we move on now to a procedural motion to be considered for today's ordinary meeting. That Council allow the introduction of a new item of business into the agenda for the ordinary meeting held on Thursday, 24 April 2025, namely item 8.3, disposal of council-owned land, Maroochydore. Councillors, can I have someone move this procedural motion? Councillor Dixon, a seconder, Councillor Hungerford. Thank you both. I'll now put that motion to the vote. All those in favour? And the motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. We will consider that item 8.3 on the agenda today. There are no presentations today, everyone, so we will move on now to item 8.1, and we welcome Ms Clements to present the first item on the agenda. Welcome and thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good morning, councillors. The purpose of today's report is to present the outcomes of the recent review of the Community Land and Complementary Commercial Activity Policy. The current policy articulates Council's position on community land and commercial activity. It was adopted in 2011 and reviewed and amended in 2017. The policy currently includes high-use, high-impact permits, low-use, low-impact permits, outdoor dining and goods on footpath permits. The current policy outlines a particular process or a detailed process in relation to high-use, high-impact permits. This particular process is relatively lengthy. It involves an expression of interest where council endorsement is required to open the EOI process. Those EOIs, expressions of interest, are assessed and then endorsed applications in 2022, April 2022, and the permits were issued for a 3-year period in June 2022. These permits expire on the 30th of June 2025. We have currently 33 permitted locations across the region, 22 high-use, high-impact permits. 4 of those are historical permits, and we have 7 vacant locations. The policy also includes our other commercial activities being managed as a renewal process under Council's local laws. These are either a 12-month or awarded for a 12-month or 3-year period, and these are facilitated under delegated authority. We have 70 low-use, low-impact permits, including 23 commercial fitness permits, 18 itinerant vendor permits, and 33 not-for-profit organisation permits. We have 186 outdoor dining permits and 54 goods on footpath permits. We have 60 low-use, low-impact other permits, which includes the Mooloolaba Ferry Trial. That particular permit expires on the 30th of April 2025, this month. And we have 21 food and drink businesses incorporated in this category. The review of the policy has identified an opportunity to incorporate a more contemporary, community responsive and equitable policy platform for the future. It simplifies our permit processes, enhances our customer experience, improves our service delivery and expands permit opportunities. Some of the key changes that the policy includes is updating the policy title to Commercial Activity Policy to better reflect the purpose of the policy, clarifying roles and responsibilities to allow permit processes to be managed at an operational level, acknowledging the experience and professionalism of existing permit holders, introducing a renewal process for high-use, high-impact permits to align with other local law permits and remove burden of reapplication for business owners, responding to customer feedback in relation to new permit opportunities and improving permit processing times, and also increasing permit periods for outdoor dining and goods on footpath permit categories. Some of the new permit types that we have incorporated into the review of the policy, or new permit types, is the emerging initiative permits. This is really around supporting innovative ideas, opportunities to activate an area and bring people and communities together, support social, cultural, environmental and sustainable initiatives and contribute to the Sunshine Coast tourism. We've also incorporated a First Nations cultural tourism permit. This particular permit type would be for the purpose of delivering First Nations cultural tourism experiences that occur on the Sunshine Coast. This particular permit would be awarded to First Nations tourism operators and groups to promote the region's cultural heritage, led by or in partnership with Kabi Kabi or Yinabara peoples. Next steps. Progress of the development of an operational guideline will be prepared to assist with decision making surrounding each permit type. We'll prepare a communication plan to assist with council officers to respond to any inquiries about changes to the policy. We'll update all relevant supporting information on Council's website, and we'll assess all commercial use applications against the newly endorsed policy and in accordance with all relevant legislation requirements, including Council's local laws. And we'll look to promote those vacant, high-use, high-impact activities and locations to encourage interest from prospective business operators. And the recommendation today is we're seeking Council endorse the commercial activity policy, which is included in Appendix A, and to endorse the high-use, high-impact locations and activities, to rescind the existing policy and to note the proposed implementation plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Law, you wish to move a motion?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I'd like to move the officer's recommendation, but with the inclusion of the additional wording at C that is shown on the screen at the moment in red. And to indicate that it's at item C to include with an additional location and activity being I in Division 10, Section 2, category snacks and drinks business. 3, that the proposed activity refreshment van offering hot and cold beverages and pre-packed goods from a self-sufficient vehicle, including the provision of water, electricity, the vehicle to be removed from council-controlled land, including car parks at the end of each business day. The proposed location is at Quota Park, Nambour, and the proposed operating hours 7 days a week, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Thank you, Councillor Law. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Dixon. Councillor Law, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I will speak to the motion and also to the purpose for the additional wording at item C. As we've heard, this policy review is certainly very necessary to bring this policy up to date to contemporary business practice, that are businesses that take place on council-controlled land. And particularly of note is the process for renewal of the high-use, high-impact permits. That will make a significant difference to businesses who operate their business in this method on council land. It will also help us with improving processing times, and it will also increase the permit periods for outdoor dining and on-path goods and services trading. So it's very timely that we should be reviewing this policy. Not only is it 8 years since it was last reviewed, but also with the expiry of current high-use permits being on the 30th of June 2025. So very timely that we should do that. Now, specifically, the reason for the additional wording and location of the high-use, high-impact category here indicated at item C, this location has been available as an opportunity in the life of the current policy. And it was probably quite rightly due for being removed from the list because it hasn't been taken up in the life of the policy. However, you may recall that in March of this year, we had a tropical cyclone, followed very quickly by an extreme weather event on the 29th of March. The rain that came in the tail of Tropical Cyclone Alfred put underwater Quota Park significantly, arguably the most significant flooding since maybe 2011 or certainly since 1974. And this had a serious impact on this area in Nambour, being Quota Park. The area went underwater. The businesses on Matthew Street went underwater, some of them by over a metre. There were swift water rescues happening here in the early hours of the morning. And the impact on the businesses there in the centre of Nambour continues today, and we don't know how that's going to look moving into the future. So the reason for the additional wording and continuing this location in Quota Park is that as the businesses are recovering, I don't want to remove an opportunity that while it hasn't been taken up with the flooding in the wake of Tropical Cyclone and then on the 29th of March, that we should not be removing a business opportunity for the people and community of Nambour. And I would just like that maintained in the policy for the time being, to make it really easy that if someone sees this opportunity and can take it, that they will take the opportunity because it remains in the policy. So I commend the review of the policy to everyone. I will be supporting that today with the addition of this wording to simply keep something that did exist in the new policy, the new refreshed policy, to enable opportunities as people in Nambour recover from cyclone and flooding. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Law. Councillor Landsberg.
Thank you, and through the Chair. And I also rise to support the officer's recommendation and also Councillor Law's amendment. Just a question, obviously, around the comment around the vehicle to be removed from council-controlled land, and just to Mrs Clements, do we have any other low-lying areas across the coast that we actually do permit, obviously on-site vendors to be used, and are they removed from those premises or those locations on a daily basis?
Through you, Madam Mayor. There are requirements with the high use where equipment is removed at the end of trade each day. However, there are some legacy arrangements, for example, the historical businesses that do have the ability to remain or have equipment remain on council-controlled land overnight. Some of those are at Golden Beach. Obviously, being tidal down there, they are also somewhat impacted by inundation at times.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for explaining that. Another question in regards to our external consultation, and with obviously the use of our high active and high use permits, the need to engage and really around our waterways and specifically Palmerstone Passage, but with the engagement with MSQ and the Department of Resources, has there been any recommendations in regards to any ongoing permits for that location?
Through you, Madam Mayor, there is ongoing engagement both with MSQ, Maritime Safety Queensland, and also Queensland Parks, National Parks as well, in regards to use of the Palmerstone Passage or the Moreton Bay Marine Park. It is a requirement of any approval that we issue that they also have an approval to operate on the passage. One of the requirements in relation to, or the feedback that we have had, is that they are supportive of the high use, high impact locations and activities that we have identified in the recommendation today. And that is on the basis that they have they are low impact in terms of the environmental concerns on the actual passage.
Thank you. And I'd also just like to note the addition of the emerging initiative permits. I think that's a wonderful outcome for us as council. And I also just want to comment on our staff in regards to how they assess a lot of these applications and permits. In regards to for Division 2 as well, the staff really drill down into a lot of these applications. They take on board councillor feedback and staff feedback, and I think it's an excellent process that we have in place. And obviously we look forward to endorsing this today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Landsberg. Councillor Hungerford.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I have my concerns with this one. I see it's in Quota Park in Nambour, in the middle of town, and it's for 7 days a week, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. The question I have is, what service is it providing that's not already available in nearby businesses?
Councillor Hungerford, are you looking for an answer, or was that rhetorical? No? Okay.
Then I'll speak to it, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Hungerford. Councillor Law.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. The local businesses who are probably within 600 metres of this location do not include a current cafe. The Nambour RSL is on Matthew Street, but it would not be competing with a coffee van, a mobile temporary coffee van and food outlet. I think that is a very specific, very different market. On Matthew Street, there has previously been a cafe, and that cafe, as a result of the cyclone and the flooding that came with the cyclone, is no longer in existence, and the operator, from current information, is not continuing, is not going to return to that building and carry on with their cafe business. We don't know what the future holds for that particular street and what business may come and go. But to remove an opportunity at this moment seems highly inappropriate, which is why I've asked to have that re-included as part of the refresh policy.
Thanks, Councillor Law. Councillor Hungerford.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I will not be supporting this, and I'll explain why. As I've said, we've had a major event there and a lot of businesses have been affected in Nambour. There's a lot of small businesses, shopping centres near here and little shops in there that sell this sort of thing. I'm conscious of the tough economic environment and how businesses are struggling and how this would impact on them. If this was somewhere where there is no service, it was out near the coast or a thing there where the service isn't provided, I'd see that as a positive for that area. But out of my concern for the existing small businesses and the tough environment we have now and the impact that could have on them, I cannot support this today, respectfully.
Thank you, Councillor Hungerford. Councillor Natoli.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I also do support the changes in terms of making sure that we can streamline these changes so that it does give those businesses more certainty and gives the council the opportunity to deal with a less cumbersome process than what we've had in the past. I still, as I mentioned earlier, have a real concern about equity. As you mentioned, some of these businesses hold a car park in some very high-use areas in my division, and that car park's locked up 365 days a year, 24/7. So what I feel, what we give them in terms of the opportunities, commercial opportunities to run a business, using a car park virtually 24/7, 365 days a year, and what we actually charge them doesn't make sense to me. I'm quite happy for them to explore and have these opportunities, but I think in terms of equity, community, we should be asking them whether they would trade and open up those car parks, because some of these businesses, especially surf schools, operate, and they can operate from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m, but they don't operate that time, but they lock up a car park virtually the whole time. Places like Alex, Maroochydore, Bulcock, those car parks are valuable car parks that we can't use. Yet they pay, on average, an annual fee of $1,764.15 if you divide that equally 33 into the maximum amount that we get each year. And when you consider a car park, if a business wanted to rent a car park at the Park and Go in Bulcock, on an annual basis, it would cost them $4,560. That's just a car park, not running a business from that. If you're in Brisbane, the CBD car park, $4,500 to $6,000. So when you consider how much of an advantage they get in using public land to operate a business, I think we need to really understand that the community offers them this opportunity, but I think in terms of fairness and equity, they need to pay a fair share for the use of that and for locking those car parks up. So if you can take that away, I'd like through the budget process for that to really be brought back to council, and we can have a much more in-depth discussion about that. Same with the outdoor dining chairs. I know times when businesses have done it tough during COVID, we've allowed them not to pay for that, but some of these businesses pay substantially much higher rents in their footprints, where the advantage has been taken by the developer, knowing that outdoor dining was going to be available for them. And again, there's a mismatch in what we get back of $3.90, whatever it is, per table per day. It's a very cheap rental proposition for a commercial business, utilising in some places like Bulcock of incredible views and opportunities to be able to have an extension to their business. So I support the changes, streamlined, but I really want to go back and hammer those charges that we apply annually to these businesses.
Thank you, Councillor Natoli. Ms Clements, would you like to respond to that?
Through you, Madam Mayor. Just for clarification, where a business, particularly a high-use, high-impact operator, occupies a car park, they are charged a square metre rental fee. That rental fee is calculated based on the footprint that they use on the beach and the additional component of the use of the space to park a vehicle, whether that be a car or a trailer. In relation to, the rental fee currently, I should know this off the top of my head and I don't have it on hand, but it is approximately $120 per square metre of use, and that's an annual fee. It's charged on an annual rate. In relation to footpath trading, we have a flat square metre fee for 12 square metres, and that is $122. And then in addition, every additional square metre after that is $122 per square metre. It's not based on tables or chairs, it is based on a footprint of space.
To clarify, we have a table here that gives us the total annual rentals that we achieve from those. And that's how I've done it. I've divided by how many businesses on an annual basis. So, it's 58,217 for the high impact, 33 businesses, divide that, it's 1,764.15. With that comes the car park and the opportunity to run their business. All I'm saying is I'm putting that perspective based on us in Mooloolaba asking businesses to pay $4,500 for a car park where they don't run a commercial business from.
Thanks, Councillor Natoli. Councillor Bunnag.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and good morning. I'll be supporting this today, and I think the policy and the framework that's been adopted seeks to strike a balance between community space for community use and commercial space using our public spaces, and that's really what this policy is about. It's about ensuring that we don't have people tripping over one another to try and monopolise these community spaces for profit. And I think having these high impact use areas identified over a longer period of time gives more certainty for businesses to be able to operate. And, I think it's really, really important that we recognise that, if council took an approach of trying to, monetise these businesses more from a revenue perspective, we'd be seen as being anti-business. If we opened up the opportunities for more competition in more areas, would be criticised for having a pro-business approach. So I don't think council can really win in this space necessarily. That's why I think we've tried to strike a balance by having this policy adopted. I guess when I think about surf schools, for example, these are historical approvals that have been there for a very long time and do serve a purpose in terms of a distinct market that we have on the Sunshine Coast, which is different from other places, which attracts people to the Sunshine Coast to learn to surf, which I think is something that we have to leverage as we move towards 2032. Surfing is an Olympic sport, so continuing to have surf schools operate in those places is really important, I think. On the Nambour Quota Park suggestion that's been made by Councillor Law, I'm very supportive of that. I think it's nothing lost by having that space offered. What I would say is, having been a former Nambour High School student, we used to have the tuck-in across the road in Carroll Street, which was probably the closest business that you'd like to Quota Park that offered that. And one of the main problems that we had, I guess, was truancy from students wanting to go and get their hot chips and gravy in the middle of winter. So perhaps the only bit of feedback that I could give to Councillor Law and the permits team is that if we are able to get someone in the door at Quota Park, that we have some consultation and discussion with Nambour State College now to ensure that perhaps if their students are wandering off during the middle of the day, they might be able to go and see what that food truck is. But I think it is a value add to Quota Park. If you look at some of the reviews that we actually have about our community spaces and park spaces, there's this great little Facebook and Instagram page called Little Sunny Coast. And if you don't have young kids, I'd encourage you to actually just have a look, because this group of mums and dads have been going around to our park spaces and doing an analysis of what they think works and what doesn't. And one of the big bits of feedback that they consistently provide is that they love having parks that have that opportunity to have a sip of coffee or to have a bite to eat when they go there. So Quota Park is a fantastic park. Being able to offer some sort of food option, when you've got little kids, 600-metre walk doesn't sound like a lot, but it is. So ultimately, I think this will value add if we're able to get someone there, and I'm fully supportive of the policy and the motion today.
Thank you, Councillor Bunnag. Councillor Suarez.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. I just have a couple of questions for clarity. Obviously, the policy went through an assessment criteria in terms of which sites were going to be put forward and which sites were going to be removed, and they were based on suitability, feedback, whether it's compliments or complaints, and also risk management or safety. So while we have the appendix talking about the site to be removed, in particular this additional site, I have no clarity on why that site was included in the remove list. So if you could give me some feedback on that, thanks.
Through you, Madam Mayor, the assessment around this particular location wasn't necessarily a case of being removed due to a safety element, etc. One of the particular requirements around, or the assessment around it, was on the basis that it had not attracted any interest. It had been an area that had been available and for a number of years has not been taken up as an opportunity. I'm mindful that there has been other economic challenges within Nambour, and so trying to support the fixed businesses was an avenue that we were looking at in that respect. However, the opportunity to be able to allow a business or to be able to engage with a business that may be interested in an opportunity or a start-up arrangement, etc., this certainly would be attractive for them in terms of being able to have access to a permit.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor, just a follow-up question. With our consultation, obviously, out of mind, out of sight, no one's been there, so the existing businesses in the area possibly didn't have any challenges with competition. Councillor Law mentioned, you know, that there was that business nearby the park which was subject to inundation. I did a quick Google search last night, so it might not be 100% accurate, but I do note there are some cafes in the Woolworths complex, and there's another one, Banksia Espresso, on the corner of Low and Ann Street, which is fairly close proximity. Did we have any consultation with those businesses prior to this policy coming forward regarding that permit opportunity in in the park, and what their thoughts were in terms of competition?
Through you, Madam Mayor, no, there has not been any direct consultation with the local businesses around this particular activity and location. On the basis that the recommendation was to remove it, that was not undertaken. In relation to future consultation or the ability to engage with the local businesses, that's certainly something that we can do moving forward, and certainly work closely with our economic development branch and our place activation team about how we can engage and interact with them about this particular opportunity.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I'll speak to the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Suarez.
Just in terms of the policy review itself, it's a logical policy and it provides some efficiencies to our council, which will no doubt be gratefully received. And I do also really love the new inclusion of the categories being the emerging permits and the First Nations cultural permits as well. Considering that we have had consultation with a industry group, being Scofter, who are always looking for new sites, I will be supporting Councillor Law's motion to have this area included. I'm sure it would be one that their organisation may be interested in. However, the caveat with that would be that further consultation with the existing businesses in the area to ensure that if a permit is issued, it's not going to negatively impact upon those bricks and mortars businesses. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Suarez. Councillor Burns.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you. Well, Madam Mayor, one of the things I do like about our ordinary meetings is you get to learn things. And so I have wonderful images in my mind now of Councillor Bunnag secretly wagging school to eat hot chips and gravy, and that is not something I would have ever imagined. So perhaps there's a business opportunity for Councillor Bunnag once his council career is done, doing the hot chip van.
Right.
I do just want to say I do support this proposal. I think council can sometimes be accused of being difficult to work with or having too complicated systems, and perhaps that's even true sometimes. And so this is actually an attempt to really streamline and make more efficient our processes in a way that actually allows our staff to make the best decisions based on many years of experience about which permits are good to go. And I do know the team do consider local businesses, particularly the bricks and mortar businesses, in the process. These sorts of processes do also request and seek comment at different times from stakeholders around what they know about the area. And so I'm confident that the policy itself will support, as Councillor Bunnag did describe earlier, a good balance between bricks and mortar businesses, as well as the ability to use our public spaces in ways that will support our community to go well. So I'm really appreciative of Nikki and the team for bringing this forward, and we'll be supporting it today, and acknowledge that the change that Councillor Law has put forward is on the back of what has been quite extraordinary weather events that have actually really changed the business landscape of Nambour in a really short space of time. I think the ability for us as a council to retain a flexibility and an agility to respond to those type of movements will hold us in good stead for a future where we are aware that future climate change will see an increased nature of those type of weather events and the severity of those weather events. And so I think this is actually a sensible step to include into here, considering the change in the business landscape at Nambour. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Burns. With no one else wishing to speak, Councillor Law, would you like to close?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. Great points, interesting conversations. I encourage and urge everyone to support this, noting the comments made. And usually, Councillor Ted, I would agree with you around our position on not wanting to introduce competition that is not otherwise there. However, in this circumstances, we have to disagree. Hopefully, with what you've heard, you may reconsider. But this area along Petrie Creek in Nambour has been seriously impacted. Businesses have not reopened. Some will probably never reopen. And others are now looking at how do they improve their premises to be more flood resilient in the future. Because as we've heard from Councillor Burns, we know this will continue to happen again. And in Nambour, this nearly happened 2 weeks after the first event. And had there been a high tide on that second event, those same businesses would have gone underwater. The intensity of rain on the 29th of March was extremely significant. And watching the water levels rise back to the doorsteps of these same businesses that had barely cleaned out from the first event 2 weeks earlier were only saved on account of there being a low tide. Now, you may wonder, how does the tide at the beach impact Nambour? Well, it's about letting the water get away. And anyone who's lived there for a long time knows that the flooding is worse when the tides are high. It's really, really simple. And I'm sure a hydrologist can explain it far better than me. But the key significant part of that is we don't want to take away an existing opportunity for a potential new business to establish, or maybe one of those businesses that is not prepared to take the risk of operating in a flood zone to take on a new opportunity. We don't know how that turns out, but this is not the time for us to remove an opportunity when otherwise we are actually improving our processes and policies, and dare I suggest that we are actually reducing red tape and we are making things better for our business community. I'd also like to remind us that the high use, high impact that does happen along the coastal strip not only supports the Sunshine Coast people, but is a significant element of the tourism industry. Another industry that has been seriously impacted by the cyclone and the outcome. So we want to support those businesses, and this will do that. And one of the things that is really important to us is when we're making comparisons, we must compare the same thing with the same thing. And I don't see a relationship to paid car parking in Mooloolaba or in the CBD here in a multi-level car park has a relationship to a high-use, high-impact permit. They are quite separate matters and quite separate issues. I don't believe that we are providing a high-use, high-impact permit opportunity in a paid car parking at Mooloolaba or in the CBD here. There wouldn't really be many customers except for those people coming and going using their cars. And there are so many better offerings nearby that it's not comparing like with like. So we have to compare apples with apples, and let's make sure that's what we do. So I urge support and look forward to support today, and thank you for the conversation. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Law. Councillors, I'll now put the motion to the vote. Those in favour? That is Councillor Broderick, Landsberg, Burns, Natoli, Dixon, Bunnag, Suarez, Law and Mayor Natoli. Those against? Councillor Hungerford. The motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. Thank you, Ms Clements. We move on now to item 8.2 and we welcome Mr Costello to present this item. welcome. Hello.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good morning.
Good morning.
The financial performance report for March. So as at the end of March, 9 months, Council's operating result of $34.3 million is above budget by about $900,000. The variation consists of revenue below budget of $3.7 million and operating expenses below budget by $4.6 million. With the revenues, our fees and charges are below budget by $1.6 million. The impact of the tropical cyclone Alfred has impacted the revenues for our holiday parks and also for our waste refuse. With the holiday parks, there's a net detriment there of about $264,000 because our operating expenses are down as well. Development application fees are below budget by $512,000, and interest received on investments are $1.4 million below budget, and that looks like that will trend, continue to have a variation through to the end of June. Expenditure, our contracts are below budget for waste, which is the contract for the landfill operations that was budgeted at a higher rate. Transport network operations, $1 million. There's some quarry operations. Digital information services, the major component there is about $300,000 for telecommunications, which is good. Property management, $564,000, it's about 3.2%. In facilities management, we expect that to correct itself by the end of the financial year. Levy projects are below budget for environment levy of $890,000 and the transport levy $765,000, and other operating projects are below budget by $611,000, and there's various projects in there. Employee costs are just below budget by $246,000 at the end of March. Our capital works program, $183 million of our total $268 million capital works program has been financially expended. $108.2 million of the $152 million core capital program has been spent, which is about 71% of the budget after 9 months. Council's cash position, as at the end of March, there's $208.9 million. The unrestricted component of that is around about $110 million, but that will decrease towards the end of June because a lot of the rate monies have been received in January and February. And Council's debt, as at the end of March, is $421 million. Our debt repayment we made through February of $12.8 million, and that's around about $26 million for the year of our debt repayment has been made. Anticipated borrowings, which we're looking at drawing down in June, of $23.2 million. Our investments, with 3 term deposits totalling $70 million. The terms mature within 89 days, weighted average interest rate of 4.87%. And Madam Mayor, just to reflect again on the risks, so the budget's been developed to ensure long-term financial sustainability. The achievement of our revenue targets is crucial to that, and the delivery of the $9.9 million of savings initiatives, of which the major component of that being $8.1 million for the employee vacancy rate, that is on track, so that's good. Failure to achieve our budgeted operating result will negatively impact Council's financial sustainability in both short and long term, and it's very important when we're moving into budget discussions for next financial year. And the continued monitoring and the deliverability and the financial capacity of our capital works program within budget scope and cost is also a risk that is monitored. And the recommendation, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Costello. Councillors, someone to move the motion. Councillor Hungerford, someone to second. Councillor Broderick. Thank you, councillors. Councillor Hungerford.
Through you, Madam Mayor. It's pleasing to see capital works are still progressing even with the wet weather we've had. It's been a significant uphill battle there, especially the guys trying to mow the parks all the time. But with $147 million or 56% of our $260 million capital works program being expended, that's a very healthy position at this part of the budget year. The core capital program has expended $60.6 million or 56.3% of the budget. Now, our cash balance, we're $127 million. That's only about just over a month's worth of cash reserve, which you require 2.5 months is desirable. So we are under significant pressure. We are controlling our debt, only $433.8 million. A very sound position to be in. But the thing that I'm going to point out going into our next budget is we've got significant headwinds, and we're going to need to tighten our belt and look at our expenditures in the next year to remain sustainable. We still have to achieve $9.9 million in savings initiatives included in the operating result. That's current. To put extra pressure on us, we have a $3.7 million March variance, which is in the negative. That'll affect that cash balance, 127, unless we can find savings. We've already got to find $9.9 million for. That's broken down of rates and utility charges, 179,000. Fees and charges, 1.6 million. Development services application fees. With the downturn in the building industry, development fees are down for the year on what we anticipated. That's 840,000. Now the next two, holiday parks and refuge tips, are a direct result of Cyclone Alfred and putting down pressure on the things there. Holiday parks, 654,000. Our free tip for the week, following that to help people clean up. That's cost 434,000. Parking fees, 373,000. Interest received on investments. Now, because we've had substantial increase in costs of delivering our services and our capital works, we've been using substantial amounts of cash to keep that going. But that pressure hasn't gone away. The cost of providing those services is still going up. That's 1.3 million because we haven't got the money there to invest in that 70 million that were there for our cash investments because we're getting down on cash. The solar farm with all this bad weather, less sunshine times and less electricity generated, 317,000, and the quarry 1.4 million. They're all headwinds we've got to make up and go into the next budget. So what I'm saying is to the community, we've got these headwinds, we're aware of them, but it means we're going to have to use restraint and control our spending into the future to keep ourselves sustainable. And we're not the only local government in this area, but we are responsibly looking at it, we're aware of it, and we're responding accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hungerford. Councillor Broderick.
Madam Mayor, through you, the Chair. I think Councillor Hungerford has covered a lot of it, but just for clarity, Michael, in there you mentioned the term unrestricted and restricted cash. Just for the benefit of everybody here, could you explain what that means, please?
Through you, Madam Mayor. So $208.9 million was our cash at the end of March, and as I mentioned, around about $110 million of that is unrestricted. So restricted cash is where it's restricted for a specific use, such as developer contributions, infrastructure agreements, levies, environment, transport, arts and heritage levy, future funds, plus some other, they're the major components. So they are restricted for a specific use. If it's not that, then it's unrestricted. So a benchmark is about 2 months of cash cover. So that's looking at our direct operating expenses, which are around about $38 million a month. And that's employee costs, materials and services and other expenses. So we're looking at 2 months of that, which is around about $76 million. We are programmed to be below that as at the end of June of this year. But the goal is to move that up to 2 months. So the unrestricted cash is basically general rates and fees and charges, but as I mentioned, the restricted cash is for a specific use.
And that unrestricted, where is most of that spent?
Through the Chair, the developer contributions are the major component out of that, and that's for our growth infrastructure, for our growth projects. If we look at say Maud Street behind us, or part of the Honey Farm Road capital works that we're doing is for LGIP, as we call it, Local Government Infrastructure Program, and 70% of that through our policy comes from developer contributions, and that's the major component of the restricted cash.
And a lot of our budget is based on the rates that come in, and we're budgeting for that growth each year. Could you tell us what growth for the Sunshine Coast we're budgeting our rates budget on this year as well?
Through the Chair, our original budget for this year had growth for general rates, so it's growth of properties of 1.9%. We've got about 155,000 properties. We achieved 1.51%, so our growth was a little bit down, and that's why budget review of last month, we reduced our general rates by that component of growth. We're budgeting next year for around about 1.5% of growth of properties.
And I just wanted to comment as well, and Councillor Ted commented as well, just in regards to the costs that we've incurred as a result of the cyclone. So you'll notice on the report that we've been given, there's significant costs that hit us both in waste by offering the free disposal, and how much that actually affects council and how much it's affected our holiday parks as well. So I just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention on how much effect that does have on our budget and how much we need to be preparing for these events in advance, particularly when we're considering our next year's budget as well. So thank you. I think Ted's covered the rest. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Broderick. No other councillors. Councillor Hungerford, would you like to close?
Through you, Madam Mayor, we're in a good position, but we've got headwinds and challenges. Every local government has. It's how you respond to those and position yourself, so this will have a heavy impact on forming our next budget. And I'm flagging here so the community understands we have to pull back on expenditure to preserve our long-term financial sustainability, and it's very important to do that. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Hungerford, for making that clear for our community. Thank you. Councillors, I'll now put the motion to the vote. Those in favour? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, Mr Costello. So we now move on, councillors, to item 8.3, which is our new item of business. And we welcome Ms Lane to present this item to us. Hello and welcome.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Good morning, councillors, CEO, ELT and members of the community. The purpose of this report is to seek approval from Council to dispose of 5 land parcels owned by Council in Maroochydore which are surplus to current needs. This report also seeks the decision of Council that an exception to the Local Government Regulation 2012 applies to the sale of these properties if the properties are offered for sale by auction but not sold. Council officers will negotiate and finalise a contract of sale as long as the land is sold for an amount equal to or more than the market value of the land as determined by an independent and registered valuer. A portion of the sales proceeds of the land parcels acquired by LGIP must be returned to restricted cash. Council manages a large and growing property portfolio which involves significant ongoing maintenance costs. It's therefore essential that the portfolio continues to meet service and community needs and does not include surplus or underutilised assets. Council officers conduct regular reviews of the portfolio to ensure assets are effectively utilised for their intended purpose and continue to achieve their highest and best use. A recent review has identified several freehold land parcels as being surplus to Council's requirements. These lots have been identified as surplus because the road network is performing acceptably with left-in, left-out intersections to Evan Street in Maroochydore, and the unconstructed laneways are a lower priority than other desired but unfunded strategic road network upgrades. These lots, all located in Maroochydore, are located at 12 Tolman Court, 32 Ridge Road, 9 Ridge Road, 62 School Road, and 76 Primary School Court. These properties located on Tolman Court, Ridge Road and School Road were opportunistically purchased between 2011 and 2014 using LGIP funds ahead of the upgrading of Evan Street that occurred in 2016. The upgrading of Evan Street limited movements to left-in, left-out at its intersections with Primary School Court, Tolman Court and Ridge Road. The purpose of acquiring these properties was to provide for possible future laneways between Tolman Court and Ridge Road and School Road, and Primary School Court and Picky Street. 76 Primary School Court was purchased in 2019 in conjunction with the adjoining property at 74 because both lots were owned by the same landowner. Number 74 was subsequently sold in 2021. These properties were purchased to deliver a link road as per the infrastructure agreement for the adjacent Picky Street development. There is differing zonings amongst these lots. 12 Tolman Court and 32 Ridge Road are high-density residential, 9 Ridge Road and 62 School Road are medium-density residential, and 76 Primary School Court is principal centre. 32 Ridge Road and 62 School Road are improved with a dwelling and subject to residential leases that expire in May 2026. The other lots are vacant land. This report seeks Council's approval to dispose of the 5 surplus land parcels owned by Council, referred to in the report by way of auction, and additionally seeks the decision of Council that an exception to the Local Government Regulation 2012 applies to the sale of these properties if the properties are offered for sale by auction but not sold.
Thank you. Councillors, can I have someone move the motion? Councillor Bunnag, and a seconder, Councillor Burns. Councillor Bunnag.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Last year, during the Mayo, I believe, made reference to something I'd learnt relatively early in terms of what Council's role is in terms of deciding projects, and they fit into different categories as must-dos, could-dos, should-dos. And I think I've found a new category. Why would we do that? It's the reality of it. These properties were acquired at various points in time, all bar one, before Evans Street had been upgraded in terms of the way it's performing. And it's easy when you're talking about other projects in other divisions to put that lens and say that, oh, well, that's a project that you could do, but you shouldn't do. But the reality is, I have strongly advocated since I've been elected to council that if we have parcels of land or assets that aren't fitting a purpose from a strategic use perspective, that we should seriously be considering whether we should be exiting and disposing of those pieces of land or assets. Because we own assets, not because we're land banking, we own assets for community purposes and strategic purposes. And when those strategic purposes change, we have to change with those times. So when I think about these particular lanes that were proposed, at a point in time, back in the Maroochydore Plan 2000 days, it made sense that you would have these laneways established. Now, when I door knock in places like School Road, like I did yesterday, talking about issues around car parking, I have residents who complain to me that School Road gets used as a rat run because it has laneway connection through Eliza Way and Larkin. So the reality is that with Evans Street having been upgraded, with the through traffic that comes through Millwall Road, there is an opportunity here, I think, for us to shift these assets on. And what it means is that we will be able to top up LGIP. And that is of crucial importance because, as we've heard from Councillor Hungerford, this council does face some significant financial headwinds. But that presents not just a challenge, but an opportunity for us to actually think very clearly about, are we doing these projects for the right reason if they continually get bumped down the pecking order? And I know for a fact that there are other projects throughout the region, whether it be Maud and Sugar Road, whether it be other projects in my division like Suncoast Beach Drive and South Coolum Road. I know that Councillor Dixon and Hungerford have projects in their divisions from a road perspective that are of critical importance to them. So it's only fair and reasonable that if we don't need these particular parcels of land for these purposes, that we move them on to help benefit other parts of the region as we go through this financial challenge. So I guess the challenge that I'd put to other councillors, if you think that there's other road projects in your division or other projects or other assets in your division that aren't necessarily fit for purpose from that strategic perspective, then let's get on with it, because there's no point holding on to these pieces of land. The only thing that I would stress and urge for the team and the CEO who will have the delegated authority to manage these transactions is that we are in a very tight rental market. And knowing that these homes are occupied by renters, it's important that as we go through the contract negotiation process, that enough opportunity and notice and leniency is provided to those tenants so that they can find alternative arrangements if the needs arise. So I'm very happy to support this motion and commend it to my fellow councillors.
Thank you, Councillor Bunnag. Ms Lane, could I ask a question? Could you please explain what LGIP means to the community who might not be aware?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. LGIP refers to Local Government Infrastructure Plan. So where all our trunk infrastructure gets funded from.
And those funds are put aside how? Can you just tell us about that? Or they're just put aside into a fund used for that purpose?
Would you like? Yes, through you, Madam Mayor. Yes, for a variety of purposes, so stormwater upgrades, road, social and community infrastructure.
Great, thank you. I just wanted to make that clear for everyone who might be wondering what LGIP means, so thank you for that. Councillor Hungerford.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Probably questions for Guy, because I've been talking to him about these matters for a fair while now. I just want to be assured that we're not disposing of something we may need later on down the track, because I've seen those sort of things happen before. And the one I'd like Guy to explain for everyone's benefit, in my area, Powers Road going across into Chancellor Park. That's on our long-term forward capital works program. We do not have the land on the southern end. That's in private ownership now. And my understanding is, many years ago it was either ours or Main Roads had that land and it got sold off privately, and we failed to secure that at that point in time, and now we're going to look at having to purchase it in the future at a very high cost. So I'm just going to get Guys to explain that to us.
Thank you. Mr Borton, if you could answer the question there about the future use of that land and the need for those laneways.
Yeah, through the Chair. The example that Councillor Hungerford is referring to, there was a road reserve that existed at Power Road that was severed when the motorway was constructed back in the 90s. That parcel of land, because it was severed, there was an application made to the state government, who was the owner of the unmade road reserve at that point, to close that road and purchase the land. If the due process was followed, then council would have been asked whether or not they objected to that, and we're unable to determine at this point whether an objection was made, because it dates back to 1992, the sale of that land. But we since then have put in place a policy, a strategic policy that was presented to council in May 2022, which would stop that situation occurring. And yes, the land is of significant value, millions of dollars, so it's going to cost us a little bit to correct that error that was made back in 1992.
And I think to answer Councillor Hungerford in regards to these in Maroochydore, the use and whether we may need these parcels of land in the future?
There was certainly some strategic benefit in providing for them, because without these there will be U-turns occurring on Evan Street itself, which affects the efficiency of Evan Street. But the cost benefit of those laneways is much, much lower than strategic priorities that we have, like south-facing ramps at South Coolum Road and other examples. Power Road itself is a higher priority than these laneways were, so we're reallocating that revenue partly into cash reserve, partly into the LGIP reserve.
Okay. Councillor Hungerford, does that answer your question there? Yes? Okay. Thank you. Councillor Dixon.
Good morning, and through you, Madam Mayor. It's maybe a question for Guy again, or the CEO. So as we just heard that...
Dixon, would you like to sit
Oh,
with
no,
your...
it's okay. I've been told I need to start standing again, so...
Okay.
Thank you. I really appreciate that, though.
Thank you.
It was explained to us, LGIP is made up of many different pots. You know, we've got our community infrastructure around parks, stormwater assets and drainage, and also our road network. In a recent... I'll get to my question. My recent meeting with the LGIP team around roads shows that we have a significant shortfall in funding around roads. And as we know, major projects like Maud Street, one of the vital arterial heart-beating roads into the CBD, needs significant upgrades. We've got plans for it. My question is, how can we be assured through the proceeds of the land sale that this money is put back into the kitty specifically for road and transport upgrades and not simply put aside for stormwater and drainage or parks? My concern is that residents tell me their number one concern in the region is traffic and transport. It's traffic all the time. It's getting to work, getting to school, getting to places on the weekend. How can we make sure that this money in LGIP stays with the transport and traffic team to deliver roads?
Thank you, Councillor Dixon. Oh, Mr Borton's going to take that one.
Yeah, it's through the chair. It's not really my area of expertise, but I have some knowledge there, so I'll try and answer it. Forgive me if I get this slightly wrong, but the LGIP reserve is audited, and we have to keep record of exactly where we spend money, and then when we get money in, where that comes from. So there's a nominal split between the networks: open space, stormwater, flooding, water quality, and road and active transport. And when we buy land, we know where that came from and the percentage of funding to that. And when we sell it, that percentage goes back into the various areas. The LGIP is at the moment 70% developer money, 30% general revenue. So typically if we buy a land parcel, 30% will go back into general revenue and 70% back into the LGIP fund based on whoever purchased that land. In this instance, it'll be transport, but open space is the same situation. They purchase land, so if it's open space, it'll go back into the open space LGIP reserve.
Councillor Dixon, that's answered your question. Great, thank you. Councillor Natoli.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you, to Ms Lane, just the timing. If this resolution gets up today, when would these properties hit the market?
Through you, Madam Mayor. So the next step for us, if we obtain a resolution today, would be to start reaching out to agents and going through that process to ensure we appoint a local specialist in that area. We anticipate that they would be likely to be listed in the early part of the new financial year.
Okay, all right. Considering the timing and without bringing other matters into this, I'd have a conversation with the CEO about the strategic timing of how this might be a better outcome for us as a council, but I'll have that discussion with the CEO afterwards.
Thank you, Councillor Natoli. Okay, anyone else? No. So, Councillor, would you like to close?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I won't labour the point too much, but when we have a growing list of priorities and a dwindling amount of money to deliver them, it's glaringly obvious that we have to get very, very, I'd say, strategic in deciding what are those priorities that we can realistically fund with the limited funds that we have. These laneways, while a priority at a point in time, do not serve the strategic intent that the other roads that are needed to be funded throughout this region serve. When people live in places like Ridge Road, Tolman Court, there's an expectation to a large extent that a cul-de-sac will remain a cul-de-sac. I don't understand from a safety perspective how improvements by building a laneway in a place like Primary School Court would make that traffic network safer. That's the reality of it. Putting more traffic down a school road, to me, doesn't seem like an outcome that we'd want to have achieved, given the fact that Evans Street has been upgraded. So, as I have said, when we have dwindling money to deliver an increasing list of roads, we have to be strategic, and I think that this starts that process today.
Thank you, Councillor Bunnag. Councillors, I'll put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? And the motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, Ms Lane, Mr Borton. Thanks very much. Councillors, there are no notices of motion today, so we will move on to petitions. And Councillor Law, I believe you have a petition.
Yes, I do. Thank you, Madam Mayor. And through you, I have a petition from residents of Steggalls Road in Yandina. And the petition reads, as a resident of Yandina who utilises Steggalls Road as a pedestrian and a road user, I am concerned for the safety and potential risk of serious or fatal motor vehicle accidents and pedestrian safety on this straight stretch of road. We, the undersigned, request Sunshine Coast Council to consider a traffic speed management plan for Steggalls Road, Yandina. The petition has been signed by 60 local residents to this particular road.
Thank you. Councillor Law has moved the petition be received and referred to the CEO, and a seconder, Councillor Natoli. Councillor Law. Would you like to speak?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I met with the residents here when they told me they were creating a petition, and these are residents of Steggalls Road, Quandong Court and Rio Place and Honeysuckle Place. It's an area in Yandina that has grown quite rapidly as a result of recent subdivisions, and there will be more subdivisions happening here in the future. The speed limit has been reduced recently from 70 to 60, which is greatly appreciated by the local community. However, it's a straight road and it is used by some road users as a bit of a speedway track, which is unacceptable and unfortunate. And they are seeking our help to try and change that behaviour of certain road users to make it a safer, more acceptable space for walking and getting into the centre of town. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Law. I will now put that motion to the vote. Those in favour? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you, Councillor Law. Councillor Landsberg, I believe you have a petition for us today.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have a petition from the lead petitioner, Rosalind Baker, and this is we, the undersigned, respectfully petition Sunshine Coast Council to reject development application MCU 24/0288. The application does not conform to current parking requirements, height restrictions and setbacks.
Thank you. That is being moved by Councillor Landsberg. A seconder on the petition, Councillor Burns. Okay, Councillor Landsberg, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Considering this application is still under assessment by our planning department, I'd like to obviously leave that process to Council. It does obviously, in regards to the prayer, speak about the number of rooms this development has, the setbacks, and also the overshadowing to adjoining properties and impact of parking along the Esplanade. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Landsberg. Councillors, I'll put the motion to the vote, just acknowledging we are voting on the acceptance of the petition and not the application, which is before Council at the moment and being considered and assessed. So this is just for the petition acceptance. So I put that motion to the vote. Those in favour of accepting the petition? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Take that to the CEO. Thank you. Councillors, as we have no further items on today's agenda, I note the next ordinary meeting will be held on a Wednesday. It is Wednesday the 21st of May at 9 a.m. So I look forward to seeing you then. I'll now declare this meeting closed at 10:18. Thank you. Have a beautiful day, everyone.